Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Green. The undisputed best color in Commander. Why? Well, green gets to do a lot of things in that format, and the two things it is arguably best at, drawing cards and ramping, are two of the biggest pillars of the format. What's more, you're rewarded for just playing lands and creatures in green by getting access to even more cards and powerful landfall effects. And all of that just from executing your game plan? Yeesh! It's tempting, though, when building green to rely only on the fact that you can't really go wrong. And I mean, hey, with such a high average card quality and so many redundant effects, why bother with tuning your deck? Well, there is some tuning that can be done, and it's tuning that is well worth looking into if you want to get the best out of your build. Today, let's look at 5 ways to improve and tune up your mono green decks. But first, a quick word about this video. This video is sponsored by Keeps, a subscription men's health brand for hair loss prevention. Now, if you know me at all, you know I believe deeply in the idea that whatever look or style you desire for yourself is not only the best one, but the coolest. Wear your body, your face, your spirit, your clothing like a mink coat, and there is nothing to be prouder of. For some of us, though, the way we wish to present ourselves to the world can sometimes be at odds with the direction our body is going in. Namely, there are men who want to have hair and unfortunately struggle with hair loss. And I'm going to be perfectly clear. There is nothing wrong with losing your hair. You are handsome and cool and super sexy, whether with long hair or bald or anywhere in between. And I would not work with Keeps if they did not let me say this. But there are people who wish to not lose their hair, and for those people, having to deal with hair loss solutions can be expensive. It can be embarrassing, and an overall frustrating ordeal. That's where Keeps comes in. First of all, Keeps offers its doctor consultations online, so you can get treated from home. And yes, you're working with licensed doctors. The medication is delivered right to your door, and all of which makes for a safe, secure, and easy process. Did you know there's only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there? And Keeps is the generic version of these, so it's incredibly more affordable than those powerful yet expensive name brands. So if this applies to you, and if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Tolarian or click the link in this video's description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/Tolarian. Thank you, Keeps, for sponsoring this video. When examining how to improve your green commander deck, let's start off with your mana base. Well, you could obviously just jam a bunch of forests, and why not? If you're running Nissa Who Shakes the World, you don't necessarily need to commit to such a huge amount of basic lands. At various price points, green has access to some great utility lands. At the budget end of the scale, both Mosswort Bridge and Castle Garenbrig offer some great value. Cheating mana is something any color wants to do, and in green it has a lot of potential to put out haymakers ahead of curve. Bala Ged Sanctuary offers a 3-mana regrowth on the other side, with Bala Ged Recovery, which is probably one of the better ways to cycle a land late in the game. If we look at some pricier options, Dryad Arbor can be fetched out as a creature, giving us an out to a blocker if we need one, while Yavimaya Hollow can help us to survive board wipes by regenerating our key creature. Of course, green-based utility lands are not all that's on offer, and when you open yourself up to the myriad utility lands out there, there are some truly great options. Using utility lands to create a rich and diverse suite of problem solving in your mana base is only one step though. Step 2 is gaining access to them. Thankfully, as we're in green, we have access to the land tutors we need to execute that problem solving. Expedition Map is available to all colors, but green also has access to a dearth of options. From format staple Crop Rotation to newcomer Elvish Reclaimer, and everything in between, there are plenty of ways to tutor specific lands when you're playing green. By adding a couple of these cards to your deck deck, you're able to not only ramp, but search out specific effects that can help you to win a game. What's more, tuning your deck in this way doesn't take away from your main strategy at all. It's free real estate. Up next is a way to ensure we can survive against more aggressive flying-based decks. While green does have access to damage prevention effects like Spore Frog and Constant Mists, decks generally have to bend towards building around recurring them in order to stave off damage for any length of time. So even if splashing a single-use fog can be good, what's usually a better priority is being able to answer those flying creatures for good. Nylea's Intervention, which we previously mentioned, can do a lot of work here, but if you're not enamored with it, there are a good number of other cards available that can do some great stuff. Even though it's sad that Return to the Earth has fallen out of favor as the format has gotten faster and more efficient, there is a strictly better alternative now, Broken Wings. Fresh out of Zendikar Rising, this is a flexible spell that can snipe out a problem angel or dragon, and otherwise still hit a Smothering Tithe or Lithiform Engine. It's more expensive than a Nature's Claim, but more flexible, and that's more awesome. If you need to get rid of a whole board of flyers, then look no further than Whip-Tongue Hydra. It's Bane of Progress for flying creatures. Tornado Elemental offers a similar effect and works well in decks that can pump it for lethal damage, as it can attack and deal damage as though it wasn't blocked. As mentioned in my Most Powerful Planeswalkers in Commander video, Vivian Reed is another great option here, as her -3 is essentially a Broken Wings. Destroying annoying flying creatures isn't the only way to stop their assault, though. Green also has access to an increasingly prevalent amount of reach, and when reach is combined with flexibility, you are sure to be on to a winner. I've run the calibrations and come up with some of the following green all-stars that can provide you with excellent blocking capability. I have no idea what that's a reference to. It looks like there's a picture here. Is that Star Wars? Is that new Star Trek? It's probably Star Wars. Even new Star Trek hasn't gotten that. I don't know what that is. It's not Farscape. Come on, Kristen, what do I gotta do to get some Frelling Farscape references in here? These cards already provide great value in any green deck, and including just a few of them will mean you aren't cold to flying creatures. It's all well and good running utility creatures in green, but you need to be aware of your curve in order to fully maximize the potential of your deck. Green runs a lot of powerful creatures with enter the battlefield effects, and so you'll want to be aware of how much these cost for two very important reasons. The first is knowing what kind of ramp you're running and how much your commander costs. If your commander costs 4 mana, like Goreclaw does, or Yiva Nature's Herald, then running ramp on 2 is a good goal. If you can play Rampant Growth or Arcane Signet or 3 Visits, you can drop your commander a turn ahead of curve. Likewise, this will mean that you should not have that ramp. Restricting the amount of cards that can cost 4 mana to play will give you less situations where you're unsure whether to cast your commander or not. It's the same as jamming all of the 2 mana rocks into Kylea of the Vast, and not playing as many 3 mana ones. Maximize your likelihood to cast the spells you want in the right order. The other important factor of knowing your curve is knowing what creatures you have access to in your deck. Green has the luxury of running a toolbox strategy when it comes to creatures. We've already covered some that can ramp and some that can deal with flying creatures, but it doesn't end there. With access to many disenchants and creatures from Reclamation Sage to Bane of Progress, the ability to gain the Monarch and mana doubling on Regal Behemoth, creature removal on Kogla Titan Ape, and the ability to end a game with creatures like Craterhoof Behemoth, of course, Green basically has an answer for everything. The beauty of playing green is that we can go search out those answers. In the same way Green excels at tutoring lands, it also excels at tutoring creatures. What you might notice about the more commonly played creature tutors in green is that they are mostly concerned with converted mana cost. Unlike when playing with Transmute, which, let me say, we have an excellent video on over here, you don't want to have your effects confined to certain slots. Instead, you should put your answers across as many different mana costs in the curve of your deck as possible, in order to be able to access them at different points in the game. So while Reclamation Sage and Thrashing Brontodon are the go-to for removing artifacts and enchantments, you might want to consider a Caustic Caterpillar, which can be summoned with Green Sun Zenith for 2 mana, or cards like Acidic Slime or Wickerbough Elder, which can be searched out with Birthing Pod by sacrificing smaller creatures. While the goal in optimized Magic is always to play the most efficient spells, having a creature toolbox in Casual Commander can open you up to a bunch of other great options that can complement your deck building. A creature's converted mana cost and its power can also come up when considering other cards for your particular strategy. There are plenty of cards that care about high mana cost spells or creatures with high power, so adjust your scope to consider what works best for your commander. Ronus the Indomitable cares about power 4 or greater, for example, so running Conclave Naturalists or Wickerbow Elder is preferable to, say, Caustic Caterpillar in a lot of scenarios. When playing green, it can be easy to get hung up on creatures. Green does have some of the best creatures in the game, after all. My next tip is to consider running enough instant speed interaction in your deck to really get the most out of what green has to offer. We already covered some great instants so far, but if you delve into what's available, there are some real hidden gems. One thing green can be weak to is Torpor Orb effects. White now has access to Tocatli Honor Guard, Hushwing Gryff, and Hushbringer, and how these effects are now seeing increasing play thanks to how powerful creatures are these days. Running instants allows you to get around these effects, as playing vanilla creatures isn't really going to give you the power to win a game of Commander. Packing a Nature's Claim or Return to Nature can give you an out to a Torpor Orb, and the aforementioned Broken Wings is a flexible answer to flying Hate Bears. Beyond just Hushbringer, White also runs cards like Aven Mind Sensor and the new Opposition Agent. Well, I don't know about you, but losing access to our ramp in green is definitely not where I want to be. Most decks are already running Beast Within to answer these problems, but don't sleep on instant speed fight effects, even if you're not in a deck that wants to brawl. Ancient Animus is a great pick if you already have a beefy commander, and one I particularly like is Unnatural Aggression. If there's a lot of recursion in your meta, getting to exile whatever you fight is a really strong move. Burning a heroic intervention to save one creature can sometimes feel rough, so consider Vines of the Vastwood. It's a great single-use way to protect a creature, and is a cheaper and more universal answer than Veil of Summer. It can also stop opponents from targeting their own creatures, which can throw a real wrench into the works. There are a multitude of cool niche effects that green has access to at instant speed, and depending on your meta, some might be really strong. Seed Time seems great if you play against a lot of counter-heavy blue decks. So now let's say you're coming to the end of your game. You're set up with your board and you have plans to attack, but you're struggling to push that damage through, even with a powerful board presence. Maybe your opponent's blockers are too big, or maybe you need to take out a player before they untap and win. There are situations where you might not have enough to convert to a knockout. While having effects like Pathbreaker Ibex and Overwhelming Stampede are usually enough, there are games where they might not be, against token armies, or when your creature comes into play tapped, or when Enter the Battlefield effects are turned off. While green doesn't get access to blue's ability to become unblockable or tap down an opposing team, it does have what many affectionately coin Super Trample. Playing creatures like the aforementioned Tornado Elemental or Siege Behemoth allows our creatures to deal damage as though they weren't blocked. This is especially useful when facing down another deck with a board full of creatures, as trading with them won't matter if they don't live to untap. If you're in red as well, Proud Wild Bonder can offer this bonus. While we do also have access to Predatory Focus, it probably competes with other finishers like Triumph of the Hordes, and so if possible, I would keep this effect on creatures. There's also Questing Beast. Fog effects and protection don't apply when Questing Beast is in play. I mean, it says so right on the card. Somewhere, hang on, let me... Oh, wow, it's legendary? Alright, there's a lot of text, okay? Oh, and it turned out I lied when I said green couldn't tap things down. Of course it can, it's green. Winter Blast is a real blast from the past. For X and a green, you get to tap down X creatures, and if those creatures have flying, Winter Blast deals 2 damage to each. What a great card. This is a great way to blow away Thopter and Spirit tokens, and can otherwise be a way to tap the most dangerous creatures or even a full opposing team. You have the mana, so use it. Speaking of using your mana, there's a great alternative to combat damage, and that's burn damage. Now bear with me, yes, bear, and yes, burn damage. Even when we're not in red, we can take advantage of green's access to burn. Green has access to everything. Ram Through is probably the best burn spell that's been printed for quite some time, and lets us take advantage of big trampling bodies by pushing through that extra damage to the face. Simply targeting a creature with 1 or 2 toughness can sometimes be enough to provide the extra damage you need to win that turn. Further afield, we have effects like Squall Line. Squall Line is an instant speed burn spell that does X damage to each creature with flying and each player. Again, it's flexible, which is right where we want to be, though we do have to ensure our life total can take the beating. Squall Line allows us to make seemingly cautious attacks and lure our opponents into taking damage they probably shouldn't. It's easy to spread damage out this way and then follow up with a Squall Line at the end step to finish players off before they get to untap. It's burn in green. At the end of the day, green is one of the best colors in Commander, and though it doesn't need any help, there are things you can do to increase the likelihood your green decks can take wins when perhaps they shouldn't. People will be gunning for you as the green player when you're ahead, and having strong answers is what will keep you alive. Whether it's having blockers with reach, being able to have a creature toolbox ready to go, having some instant speed shenanigans to really mess with people, or just running the best utility lands, green has a lot of options when it comes to squeezing those margins. I hope very much the tips in this video today have been helpful, and I hope some of the more underplayed cards mentioned have piqued your interest. If you'd like to see the following tips actually in play in a real deck list, our script supervisor, Kristen Gregory, has put into play her mono-green Ronas the Indomitable deck, and I'll leave a link to her deck list in the description so you can see these ideas implemented in a real deck. Looking to tune up Commander decks in other colors? Be sure to visit our extensive library of Commander tune-up videos, and special thanks once again to Keeps. If you are ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Tolarian or just click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That's KEEPS.com/Tolarian.